Weird buzzy thing happening.
All right. Hello, Milwaukee. Welcome back to River West Radio. My name is Chris. I'll be your host tonight on the Odyssey Local Artist Interviews, better known as OLAi, live streaming local artist internet talk show, Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We bring in locally established artists and get to know them and their perspectives on the city and the creative culture within. Today's featured artist is Cole Norton. Welcome to the show, Cole.
Hey, thanks, Rosie. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Glad to have you down. Thank you, very much for, taking the time to come down here.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Always happy to help. I love what you do, so I'm glad to be part of it.
Excellent, excellent. So let's get right into it. I guess you have been out of town recently. You came back just a few weeks ago on some international, multi-country adventures.
That's right. So I spent a week in Mexico for a friend's wedding.
Yes,
which was
nice.
which was a fantastic experience. Weddings are always a very joyous occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good way to start the trip. We were at an all-inclusive resort, which was the pinnacle of our luxury.
Yeah.
Over the course of the travels, it slowly got smaller and smaller rooms to stay in.
What part of Mexico did
we were in? Riviera Maya.
Maya.
Yeah.
Sounds romantic.
Yeah, it was. It was nice.
Very good.
Great weather. The water is super warm, and out there snorkeling with all the fishes and all the critters out in the ocean. It's very beautiful. And then we had a brief stay in LA with some friends out there, and then went to Fiji, and then New Zealand and Japan, where I spent the bulk of my time abroad. 3 months in New Zealand, backpacking with another Milwaukeean, Gene Salmon, pretty well known figure in the River West area. And we had a really, really fantastic time. New Zealand is just a absolutely beautiful country. The landscape is very inspiring, and just an incredible vistas, and it really was something special. It's
in that little small chunk of land, comparison to its neighboring Australian land, especially. There's a lot of diversity as far as the transition from the middle to the coast.
Yeah, in one day you can see a glacier, you can be in a rainforest, you can be in a desert, you can go down to some caves, then you can be up on the Snow Peak mountains, all in a day. It's quite a bit of driving to do all that, but it's doable. It transitions very quickly. Yeah, there's some areas where they get 4 seasons in one day. It's quite unique area. I believe it's partly subtropical and subantarctic. So they've got a lot of different temperatures kind of flowing into that landmass.
Yeah.
That can dramatically change the weather and dramatically changes the kind of flora you're seeing and animals, and it's really an interesting place.
Yeah, most definitely. So, what brought you to New Zealand?
Well, that it was because of friends that had been there, and I heard a lot of good things just about the landscape, and being from the Midwest. It's like we don't really have mountains around here.
Not so much.
Yeah, and I mean we have the Great Lake, Michigan, which is beautiful, but it's different from an ocean, and so it kind of the uniqueness of it was a big attraction.
Yeah.
And a little bit of the isolation of it, and just being out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was far enough away that it seemed like a good place to go.
Righteous.
Yeah.
So did you spend a lot of time in a hostel situation? Camping? Or?
Hostels and a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And we had a camper van, which I would recommend if you happen to be planning a trip to New Zealand. put aside some cash to get a camper van, that's the way to go for sure.
Wow.
Because you're very mobile and you can get around, and you can get out of the cities, which is definitely should be a priority if you're in New Zealand, because we've got cities here, but we don't have, we don't have glaciers, and we don't have canyons and caves with glowworms and those sorts of things. So you want to get out there and see it. But but there was a lot of hostels too, and that was something that was new for me. I had never experienced a hostel living.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's way better than hotels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's much more of a community experience, and you meet some very interesting characters, and
A little bit more open air.
Yeah.
Between rooms.
Yeah.
Literally, sometimes.
Yeah, yes. And and you just get exposed to people from all over the world. I think, in terms of in a creative capacity, it's very refreshing to be exposed to so many different cultures all in one spot. And it opens up a lot of interesting conversation. And
do you find more of that just throughout the general experience, or did you spend some time in the city and feel the same way?
Well, we ended up traveling with some people that we had met in cities, and like in our camper van, we were with a girl from she was from Amsterdam, and then a gentleman from London, and then
Nice.
and another man from a small town in Ireland. And so we all we formed this little motley crew that ended up driving around New Zealand, and so that was quite an amazing experience to just have. I mean, obviously we're all European in that or European descent in that situation. Okay. So it wasn't the same as my multicultural experiences in, say, in Japan, but it did open up a lot of interesting conversations, and
absolutely,
it was great.
That's good, man. That's what travel is all about,
Yeah,
just connecting with people from all over the place, and roughing it a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely.
So your trip in New Zealand, an aspiring and good one, led you to Japan afterwards. That was your next destination, and
that's correct.
What took you to Japan?
Well, many things took me to Japan. I've had a creative kind of fascination with Japan for quite a while. I've always found so many aspects of the culture there is to be very inspirational, very beautiful. They touch on concepts of perfection in art that you don't necessarily see in such abundance in many other places, especially areas where I've been. And then also an interest in the Japanese martial arts, which is what kind of got me to be inspired to research Japan in the first place. For the past almost 4 years, been studying a traditional Japanese martial art, and that really opened me up to so much of the culture, inspired me to start taking classes in the language, and really look at understanding the different facets of Japan on a deeper level. And so I felt really a draw to go to Japan. Like it was something deep down, like I had to do it. Yeah. Which was quite it was a powerful thing, and leaving New Zealand was difficult, but because it's such a beautiful place. And going from the vast nature, wonderful landscapes, openness to metropolitan Tokyo was a major, a very, very drastic change. So, and the first couple weeks in Japan were difficult, to say the least. It was kind of staggering, the culture shock. I've never experienced anything quite like it. I imagine that a lot of people can relate to that, traveling to many places in the world.
What was like one thing that when you first got there, when you referred to culture shock, that sticks out? Something that just kind of like was like, whoa, okay, I'm in Tokyo, Japan right now.
Right. Well, when I first got there, a good friend of mine picked me up at the airport, and he let me stay with his family for the first night, which is great because
Nice.
They cooked me. My first meal in Japan was just incredible. It was like homemade sushi and a whole bunch of
Oh,
stuff.
but after the road in New Zealand, that was probably
Yeah.
felt like a king for us.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But then I ended up going, and then I was on my own, and I had booked a hostel, but I had a night that I had to stay. The room wasn't available, so I had to figure out alternative lodging for one night. So I stayed at a business hotel in an area called Asakusabashi, which is where the hostel I was staying at was, and it was a strange experience to book the business hotel. I had to come back at a certain time so that the guy could let me into my room. It wasn't, it was like I kind of had to work on his schedule,
Right.
on my own, and there was no like room service or anything like that. But I remember walking around in Asakusabashi, and I couldn't tell what was like a restaurant and what was maybe somebody's house or or just some other form of establishment, because a lot of the signage is there. A lot of places they have this like plastic fake food that shows like what they serve, or they'll have like a menu out. But in the area right around where I was, it was just this store fronts with like signs out in front, which is all written in in Japanese, which some of it I could read, but I could maybe phonetically sound it out, but that didn't necessarily know I knew what it meant.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like a moment where I was like, wow, I don't know how to get food here. That's a problem. And I only had my one friend's phone number in my phone, which was like a little prepaid phone, which I was very fortunate to even be able to get that, because my friend had to go and do all of that for me because I had no idea how to do that. We had to go to a couple places. It's very difficult to get a prepaid phone in Japan. The only one I could get was like bright pink, which which over there actually it doesn't stand out as much as you might think.
Sure.
So around here it'd be a little more difficult to pull that one off. But yeah, and then just looking at like the rail system there, the train system it's incredible. It's I am completely in love with it at this point.
Electric?
Yeah. But initially, it looks like I don't know. It's like looking at like a Where's Waldo, and you're trying to find the station you're at in this giant mass of like lines, and it's very it's hard on the eyes at first.
They utilize it to the fullest.
Yeah. But so I didn't know how to get around when I first got there. I had no idea how to get anywhere. I didn't know how to get food, like I said, and really just kind of didn't know what to do at all. And I couldn't really speak with anybody. The area Asakusabashi is not it's not in downtown Tokyo, so it sort of is, but it's not in like the real business metropolis area. So there's not really a lot of stuff in English there, and most of the people there, they only speak a little bit of English. The majority of the people, and so I felt very isolated, extremely isolated. But I knew I had to push through it, and I got assistance from talking to friends and family, and they helped me to just be like, okay, well, you just gotta figure it out, one step at a time. And I knew it was doable. I was thinking, if I can climb to the top of a volcano in New Zealand, or go 3 hours down into a cave, I'm sure I can find a restaurant in Japan to get some food from. So it's just a matter of that, and then I ended up going to the hostel, which again, put some praises out to a hostel that was great because there were people that were there that spoke English, that knew the area, and were able to kind of show me some of the local places. And then from there, your web just kind of goes out.
Yeah.
And then I ended up meeting up with a lot of my friends who I had made through the Japanese program here at UWM, which I had taken a semester of a few years ago. But I had made some very close friends, and then they were able to show me areas, and within, I'd say, a month, I could confidently get around Tokyo and knew my way to get just about anywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah, and by the end of the trip, which was 3 months to the day, I could confidently say I could get anywhere in Japan, but it was a difficult process to get there.
Yeah, from start to finish.
Right, and I think it's a matter of just not giving up, and being open to, you got to leave all your reservations at the door.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And you just have to be open to exploring. Unfortunately, Japan is a very safe place where you can do that and not have to worry too much about really getting yourself into some kind of problem, which isn't the case everywhere. But
so among many other mediums, one of your greater focuses, especially in the past few years, has been a Japanese form of martial arts, and you began your studies obviously in the United States.
Yes.
With that in Milwaukee.
Yeah, in Milwaukee. Yep.
Okay, and that piqued your interest really into the whole culture, and eventually led you to actually physically go out there and experience some more in-depth personal training and what have you. Can you explain to us a little bit how martial arts has these sort of different aspects, spiritually, physically, mentally, and how those things kind of tie into it, and how you feel it is a form of art, a form of expression.
Well, yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, and there are many forms of martial arts, of course. And so this is just speaking from my own personal experience with it. But yeah, I find it to be it gives me the ability to really explore a lot of different aspects of my life. So I find the dojo to be sort of like a metaphor for life. Each time training, it's you're dealing with a lot of different experiences in the moment. It really forces you to be completely in the moment, and it is a physical expression, of course, of movement, and you have to be aware of your body, your surroundings. Situational awareness is key, and obviously just the physical aspect of it. It's a workout, which everyone can agree that working out is a very positive thing, in moderation at least.
Yeah.
But my art, my painting, and my drawing, and my digital art, and all that it's kind of like it's a different form of meditation, where I'm sort of taking what's in my mind and pouring it out onto my canvas, and very focused on that. And whereas with the martial arts, it's kind of like I'm the canvas and the world is pouring into me. And it's like I'm reacting to my surroundings as opposed to me, the canvas, reacting to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Of course, when you're working with somebody else, they're reacting to you just in the same way, but it's kind of a dance in a way. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more painful than a dance, but in many ways it is like dancing. I feel very connected with reality. Whereas sometimes with my art, it's a different kind of connection, but in a way you're a little isolated because you're totally in your own moment, in your own zone, but connected with whatever you're creating. Yeah, which certainly is part of the world too, of course. But
absolutely.
But it's not. I feel it's not I feel it's a little more isolating.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both similar, but they're kind of opposite in a way, in my mind at least. I like to think of it that way because I tend to burn out on doing one thing too much. So for me, they balance each other out quite well.
Whoa. River West.
Welcome back to Milwaukee. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So, could you maybe tell me a little bit more about some of the more recent work you've been doing, more focusing in on digital productions, and where does your creativity come for those? And what kind of digital work are you doing?
Sure. Well, so I was traditionally trained primarily at MIAD, Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, and eventually I moved more towards digital. For me, it's a more enjoyable experience. Although every once in a while I have to just get and touch the canvas, and it's a much more tangible thing. And I certainly love doing traditional work, but I like to get concepts out of my head quickly. I like to work fast, and digital is a great medium for me for that. And so a lot of times my work is, I don't think of it necessarily as much about creating a painting and creating a piece of art as I think about it just like, wow, I've got this idea in my head. I just need to get it out of my head and get it onto something. Yeah. And so the digital media is a great way for me to do that. I don't have to pay for new paints. I don't have to, have a workspace set up. I can just hop on the computer real quick, boom, and put it out there. Yeah. Which I use it's called a Cintiq. It's like a Wacom screen that you draw on the screen. So in terms of the actual methodology of creating the work, it's similar to doing a painting or doing a drawing on a real piece of paper, except you're just doing it on a screen. So it still has that kind of intuitive feel to it, and you just kind of have a little bit more options when it comes to colors and whatever you want to do with it. Yeah. And also you have it in a digital means, which is great when you're doing, I'm an illustrator, so it's great when you're doing illustrations, because generally speaking with an illustration, it's going to have to be digitized at some point anyways. Yeah, eventually. Because it's going to either be printed on something or, used in a background in a film or put directly into a video game, whatever. So it makes a lot of sense. But like I said, there's definitely sometimes you just have to be doing the real thing. I still think that my favorite moments in art are just having a piece of paper and a stick of charcoal and doing a figure drawing. I think that's one of the most beautiful moments you can have as an artist, because again, that's like a moment of being connected with reality. You're working with a model, you're feeling the paper, you're feeling the charcoal, you're getting dirty, and so that absolutely is very powerful. But again, I don't want to burn out too much of one thing, so I switch it up a little bit. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I like to get a little bit of everything in there. Yeah. But in terms of my actual work that I do for freelance, or generally the things that I would show to people and say, well, this is the work I do. Yeah. It's primarily all digital. Working on personal project now, a graphic novel, but I don't want to get too into that. That's later. But, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I've got more to show for it. It's been a long process. I wrote the whole thing while I was traveling. And nice. Yeah, so a lot of I didn't keep a diary or anything, just kind of tried to translate a lot of my experiences into the writing, which it's not anything directly related to what I was experiencing, but it's, the emotions there. Yeah. But anyways, that's in that kind of capacity, something like a graphic novel or something. It's digital is fantastic for it, because you can switch things up, and especially the way I work, I'm changing a lot as I go along. I kind of edit as I go, and I'm like, I just want to take this whole frame out and replace it with something completely different, which is a nightmare when you have it done on actual paper. Right. It's like, oh my God, it's terrible. But but when you're working digitally, it makes it way easier to just go in cut and paste or whatever you want to do.
Sure, switch something out really quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. So, what are some other things you've done with the digital work, freelance or commissioned?
Well, I've done some stuff for some local companies that are doing video games, and there's a lot of that was through people I met in the animation program at MATC, which I also took classes there. Fantastic program. They're really doing some awesome stuff over there, and so I've done work for games, backgrounds, character design, concept art, things like that. I've done 3D modeling for some companies, like manufacturing companies, things like that, which is not exactly my preferred work.
Yeah.
It's a little too mathematical for me, but that's just personal taste. But there is a lot of work in that field. But that was, again, me exploring new types of creation, just different types of digital creation. The 3D stuff is all very interesting. And then I've done just local people trying to do either t-shirt companies or local musicians, DJs, things like that. People that need illustration work for really whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
so I'm always happy to do stuff like that as well.
Nice. So a lot working with the digital stuff more recently, and previously having that traditional instruction, for a background.
Right.
When did you decide that art is what you wanted to pursue? Was there a moment or a series of
I've just been
moments?
drawing since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was just kind of a thing. Like, I don't really like doing anything else, so
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists are like, wow, I think maybe a lot of people feel that the same way, where it's just like, you just feel like that's what you want to do. It's obviously not the easiest road to go down, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Although I have a day job too, but
Sure.
for now, at least, it's like, eventually I'd love to be able to support myself with my art, but I love my day job too, though, so it's all good. You just gotta love what you do, and I think that's the golden ticket.
Well, for maybe like some of the younger students of expressionism or art, not having yet experienced maybe some of the ups and downs that you may have through your own experiences, what are some things you can say to encourage those people to pursue that realm?
Right. Well, I always try to follow my intuition. I think that's, I shouldn't say I've more recently learned to try to follow my intuition. And I think it's like, if your heart's telling you want to be an artist, you just got to figure out a way to make it work. And there are definitely ups and downs, and it gets difficult, and especially when you're learning and you may not necessarily even like your own work you're producing. I mean, for a long time I was like, wow, I'm really not very good at being an artist. Sure. I look at my art, I'm like, wow, this is actually really bad. But that's, fortunately, I got past that part, at least I like my work now. I don't know what other people think about it, but I think enough people like it. I get good enough feedback, but but that's totally okay. And you just have to keep going, and it's good to get constructive criticism, that's for sure. And a lot of people, they receive constructive criticism, and then they can't deal with it, so they shut it out. They don't take it to heart and really try to learn from it. So I'd say that's one thing that people need to be open for and really look for. And that's the great thing about being in a school, is that you actually have people who will give you constructive criticism. In a real world working environment, they're not going to give you constructive criticism. They're just going to fire you, or they're not going to pay for your work. They're not going to buy it from you. So it's like, they're going to find someone else who can do it. So when you're in well, you know, when you're in an educational environment, that you can really take advantage of that. And I would say to seek it as much as you can. And it's also, you know, like we've talked about before, the importance of having of making connections, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, that's like one of the great things about what you do, you know, with Milwaukee Odyssey and everything. It's like, it's great to just get artists out there that can connect together, give each other feedback, and help each other out. And and so that's also as either a student or a young professional, I think it's so important to meet people, to be open to meeting new people, talking about art, you know, getting involved, getting out to see other people's artwork, galleries and stuff like that. You know, that's
a really good point you touch on, especially about getting out to see other people's work.
Yeah,
I think it's important to, you know, if you're a perspiring artist, you know, if that's what you're looking, you know, to do specifically, it's really important to get out there and try to experience other people's perspectives.
Absolutely.
And take that criticism that you may have inside and voice it.
Right.
And appropriately, you know,
right,
and respectively, and also be open to other people's, you know, and you know, and like collaborative work, I think is a very you've done a variety of collaborative work.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
I mean, whether it's martial arts or have it been painting or with photographers, could you maybe tell me a little bit more about some of those collaborations you've done?
Yeah, sure. You know, I've worked with the Kodo brothers on a number of projects, and love working with both of those guys. Two extremely talented creative minds, as you're well aware.
Yeah.
It really forces you to set aside ego, which a lot of artists have a lot of ego, and you know, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, because oftentimes you need a little bit of that to get your stuff out there, and you know, and turn people's heads and say, hey, this is what I do, look at this. Personally, for me, I have a difficult time with that aspect of it, but you know, that's just me. But when you work collaboratively, it really does force you to kind of to take other people's creativity into account, which anytime you're dealing with something, if you're working for a company or something, I mean, that's collaboration right there. You have to collaborate with your clients or with whatever. But a lot of fine artists will say, and I shouldn't say fine, I'm not trying to badmouth fine artists. There's always a fine art illustration kind of competition going on. Yeah. But you know, I think what can happen, and this happens with illustrators too, is that they say, well, this is my work. You either like it or you don't like it. And, you know, and that's fine. But I think that can kind of it doesn't form a community then. There's not a community being formed in that situation. It's just people kind of standing on their own, you know,
exclusivity,
right, and just saying, well, here's my work, and some really fantastic and beautiful work gets created by that, which in turn does fuel the artistic community. But for me, I prefer to be working with other people on
directly.
Projects. Yeah, and I think that it allows for people to help each other out to get each other's work out there, and you know, and not that can't happen. You know, if you're not directly collaborating with someone on a project, like I don't really collaborate that often anymore, unless it's on paintings and things like that. Unless it's something like a special event or something like that. But you know, I work with photographers, and for my illustration, I use a lot of reference photos and stuff, and you know, I work with Canny Photography. And,
excellent.
Yeah, and he's just does fantastic work. Love working with him, and you know, so that's the primarily what I collaborate with now, is working with photographers. Yeah,
nice. One group that I wanted to refer back to, just because I personally feel like it was a really strong and vibrant collaborative while it was existing. That was a group, Archie Andrews, that used to be a part of.
Right, with the Kodo brothers, yes.
And a couple other artists as well.
Yep, the Wirches.
the Wershes, and I believe
And then-
occasionally you had other.
Yeah, Hatham was in there. Yep, which he has illustrations that he does now. I think he's done T-shirts and some other stuff. Really, very interesting work. Yeah, HAB. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I don't know if it's HAB or HAB, but yeah, I've only seen it written.
So Archie Andrews was, just to give a brief history on it, was a collaborative group. So you guys would actually doing paintings on canvases, large canvases usually, and sort of working with different types of paints and gravity and kind of creating these different, very abstract pieces that.
Right. Yeah, we would do them together at the same time. So it was like everyone was painting at the exact same time. It was a pretty messy process, and which is great because you'd be working on one area maybe, and then someone completely covered up with something different later.
Yeah.
Which that really you got to be like, okay, you got to be cool with that.
Yeah.
You know? Otherwise, it's just never it's not going to work.
Right.
And sometimes we go in with the plan and a very specific goal in mind, and other times we just kind of have at it. Yeah, and that was
you guys showed a lot around town. While you were tied together.
Yeah, we did.
What are some places that you guys have shown?
Well,
or even you yourself, you know.
Yeah, well, we showed, you know, with the line of work I do, primarily the illustration that I don't generally show. It's just that's not exactly the kind of stuff you put up in a restaurant. Drawings of, you know, dragons and things like that. But you know, anyways, Archie Andrews, we showed at we showed at Cuvée, which was a great place to show at. Showed it there a couple times. And then we had some work up in the Ale House at one point.
Nice.
And yeah, it's been a little while. I'm trying to remember all the places.
Do you guys ever show at the Art Bar over in River West here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Nice.
We've shown at the Art Bar. Yeah.
Over on
Don is
OLAi.
a pleasure to work with. Yeah, the Art Bar is a great place. Absolutely. Yeah, and I know there's been a number of places, and then the Pritzloff.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Pritzloff building down the 3rd Ward.
Yeah, we've worked with you on
another
some stuff.
beautiful space.
Right. Yeah. I think there was wasn't there some Archie stuff over at when you did some shows at Most. Yeah. Yeah.
Most Bar down in Pittsburgh.
Right. So yeah, we've shown at a few places around town.
Excellent.
Definitely. And they've been up in other places too. Because of the size of the group, people were sometimes you'd be like, okay, well now it's up over here and there's stuff over here, you know. So you get a lot of exposure that way, I guess. That's
what the collaborative effort really, you know, boils down to.
Right,
you know,
right.
On one of the success scales.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, getting your name out there, working collaborative. You know.
Yeah, right. So there you go. That's another benefit of working collaboratively. More hands to do more work.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, that can be a difficult thing when you're a lone artist is trying to produce the work, and then you're trying to market your work, and you're trying to get it out there. You're trying to set it up, setting up shows and moving things around depending on the size of your work. If you don't have a truck, and that can be a real pain. Yeah. So, yeah, it helps to know people. It's a big benefit.
Absolutely. So, you know, aside from places that you've shown personally or have shown collaboratively, what are some other shows in the past in Milwaukee that you've attended in general? Maybe they're annual or, you know, one-time events that you've been to that kind of stand out in mind that you thought were pretty interesting. What happened at one of those?
Well, senior thesis at MyEd is always a good show.
Right on.
It's very interesting to see what the students over there are producing, and just being alumni from MyEd, I'm always curious as to see what they're doing over there. You know, your shows, Milwaukee Odyssey, of course, are fantastic, and
thank you.
Yep, and then Mars, they do some great stuff too. And yeah, anytime any of my friends have little local gigs, I try to make it out to them. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what it boils down to, is supporting your friends. So, because you know that's what the artistic community really needs to band together to help each other out. the more people you bring, the more exposure it gets, and then hopefully exponentially it'll grow. That's not always the case.
Right.
But that's that would be nice, and sometimes it just happens to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Borg Wards had some great stuff.
Borg Ward.
That's down. That's on the south side.
Okay.
I think it's on National.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. It's been a while. Like I've been out of the country for a while, so I get my
street
names.
remapping.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny how that happens when you think you're adjusted to the place you're at,
right?
And you come back, it's like you haven't lived your whole life. Like what?
Right, exactly. Yeah, gotta get used to it again.
And we're glad to have you back, Cole.
Well, thank you.
Good to have your positive energy, and light in the city.
Well, that means a lot to me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely,
absolutely.
It's been good seeing you out and about.
Yep. I'm trying to get around, run the paces and show face.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited for you guys' event coming up on Saturday.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit more about that real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not at all.
We are. I have been, rather. No, it won't be. I've been co-producing a fashion show called Dementia that is a benefit for the Alzheimer's Association with the young and vibrant Miss Valerie Aliwarga, makeup artist for the company MAC. Her vision was to inform people about dementia and Alzheimer's through a display of designers' work, and there'll be 2 designers at the show. Carol Alexander,
who happens to be my best friend.
Yes.
Hi, Carol. I'm going to see her right after this.
Shout out to Carol. And she has a line of work which I did get a brief look at some of the earlier pieces. I know she's been working on some other stuff for a while now, but I think it's incorporates a lot of furs and really hides. She does her own tanning and taxidermy, and so
very unique
feathers,
stuff. Awesome,
large and small pieces that can be worn in all parts of the body, wraps and dresses, vestibules and such. So Carol Alexander being one of the designers, and then another, Heather Pierce, will be showing a line of swimsuits which have been inspired by her international travels from Rio de Janeiro to Bali to England. The girl's been all over the place and is an artist that works in different mediums and has sort of incorporated them into these swimsuits. So they'll be really fantastic pieces.
Yeah, sounds great.
And through those works, the Dementia show is going to, showcase. There will be a presentation including live dance performance, sort of interpreting this different stages of dementia. And the show, again, is going to be down at the Grand Avenue Mall down on Wisconsin Avenue in the Plankinton building above where TJ Maxx his entrance is. On the second floor there, you'll see ushers and signs. If you show up this Saturday at 7 p.m., the doors will be open. And the show will probably start at 8 p.m. Again, that's not the Grand Avenue Mall. Some of our sponsors for the event making this happen are Art Milwaukee, which is also a company, nonprofit down in the Grand Avenue Mall. Black Dot Vodka, Take Home Owen, local catering company and good friend. Canny Photography, Blush, Stir, the Coder Brothers, and Capriccio Salon and Spa, and of course the Grand Avenue Mall and Milwaukee Odyssey. Collectively, we'll be making this show happen. So if you guys don't have any plans, for Saturday, come on down to the Grand Avenue Mall. Again, doors at 7 p.m. And you can find more information about the event at artmilwaukee.com/donate, where you can also make a cash or a check or card contribution to the benefit, which is all proceeds going to the Alzheimer's Association, the Milwaukee branch, located in West Dallas. So, yeah, but
Awesome, man. I'll be
yeah,
there.
aside from
For
that,
sure.
there's a lot of other vibrant and happening things going on in the city. Anything you're looking forward to beyond this weekend?
Well, summer is always a good time in Milwaukee.
That's right. That's right.
Because we
It makes up
don't
for
get much of it.
Yeah, right. It makes up for it tenfold. The winters are slow, and those who can persevere,
Yeah.
I think, come out strong and go hard in the summer here.
That's right. So I'm just looking forward to hanging out on the beach and
Bradford Beach,
Yeah.
Lincoln Memorial Drive.
yeah, and just hanging out in River West and enjoying the nice days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some spots over in the River West neighborhood that you like to hang out at?
Well, this is actually, I just moved to River West since I got back, so I've only been living here for about a little under a month now. So I'm still mapping it out.
Yeah.
But I'd say, Art Bar is great. And there's what is that? There's a little Mexican joint down on
Corazon?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! If you haven't had brunch at Corazon,
Yeah, it's good.
get there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful little cute mom and pop spot with vibrant colors and very delicious
Yeah.
platters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, other than that, mainly hanging out at my apartment. So.
yeah, cranking out work
That's right.
and
That's right.
and getting out when you can. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So again, for those of you tuning in late, this is your host Christopher Rose, and this is Odyssey Local Artist Interviews, better known as OLAi. We're a live streaming internet talk show every Thursday from about 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we are bringing in locally established artists and getting to know them and their perspectives on Milwaukee's community and its creative culture. And again, today's guest has been Mr. Cole Norton. And again, thank you very much for coming down and joining us this evening.
It's my pleasure, Rosie. Thanks for having me.
I think we're going to maybe push off to Jazz in the Park down at Cathedral Square, perhaps.
Nice.
If you'd like to catch us down there. Otherwise, I'll see you this Saturday at the Grand Avenue Mall.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thanks
you
a lot,
very much for
Milwaukee.
coming down.